Dr. Sister Lydia. Now, today's national webinar is being organized by G.H.G. Khalsa College of Education, Gurusar Sadhar, Ludhiana, on the much needed issue for higher education institutions. That is qualitative initiatives and best practices in higher education institutions. The webinar is being sponsored by NAC Bangalore. The resource persons of the day one of the webinar were Dr. Shyam Singh Inda, Assistant Advisor NAC, Professor Amya Kumar Raj, Advisor NAC, Dr. Krishan Kant, Principal, Agarwal PG College, Balabgarh, Faridabad. Today, that is day 2, we have Sister Lydia, Dr. Fernandes, Sister Dr. Lydia Fernandes, former Dean, Faculty of Education, Mangalore University, Mangalore, Professor R.G. Kothari, former Dean, Faculty of Education and Psychology, MS University, Vadodara, and currently President, CTE Gujarat Chapter, and Dr. Ashwani Bhalla, Professor, Department of Commerce, SCD Government College for Boys, Ludhiana. Now, friends, briefings of the day 1. Day 1, session 1. The webinar commenced with seeking the blessings of Almighty, the College Shabad, followed by a formal welcome by Principal Dr. Pargat Singh Garcha, who gave an overview of the need of bringing quality management strategies in all academic and administrative aspects of higher education institutions. The session began with the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Manu Chadha, deliberating upon the need, importance, and objectives of the webinar. Dr. Manu stressed that in this competitive and rapidly changing world, the performance of higher education institutions is a growing concern. Quality assurance mechanisms at the institutional level may be implemented rigorously. There is a need of outcome-based teaching and outcome-based learning in all higher education institutions. For incentivizing quality, Indian higher education institutions should create a supportive environment for quality research and innovations at the international level, and as such, the country can have better chances to come under the world-class ranking system. To facilitate the participants with the main theme of the webinar, that is quantitative initiatives and best practices of higher education institutions, the resource person was Dr. Shyam Singh Inda, Assistant Advisor, NAC. Dr. Shyam kicked his discourse by emphasizing that quality is a habit and should be imbibed, which can be evolved by continuous efforts of all the stakeholders. Ensuring and maintaining quality is everyone's responsibility. In fact, it is a collaborative effort. Dr. Shyam illustrated the concept of quality control and quality assurance and spoke at length about the components of quality assurance and the need to create its awareness among stakeholders. He stressed on quality assurance mechanisms and its relevance in the accreditation process, stating the role of government, the quality assurance agencies, faculty, and the students in higher education quality. Dr. Shyam threw light on the characteristics of Education 3.0 and described a variety of ways to integrate technology into learning. With Education 3.0, classes move away from traditional lectures and instead focus on interactive learning. Stressing on the genesis and emergence of Education 3.0, Dr. Shyam explained that learners can take control and manage their own learning, that is autogogy. The students are the head and the courses are the tails of the tails. In a nutshell, the learners are important factors, but not ultimately responsible for quality assurance. A personalized learning environment enables better contact between the student and the teacher, and the education is less teacher-centered. He talked about the various platforms of PLE. Concluding his talk, Dr. Shyam stressed that there should be no scarcity in quality standards, no institutional boundaries. Learners can design their own learning mode. The session 2 of day 1 was deliberated upon by Professor Amiya Kumar Raj, advisor NAC, and his topic of deliberation was online assessment and accreditation methodology in revised accreditation framework. Professor Amiya started his discourse by focusing on RAF. He highlighted the various qualitative and quantitative metrics corresponding to the actual tasks to be carried out under these metrics. He further informed that the manuals and the metrics are different for different institutions, be it universities, PG institutions, or UG institutions. Professor Amiya suggested that the institutions need to answer the various qualitative metrics within the word limit, that is 500 words, yet they need to mention precisely which work has been, all the work that has been done in the last 5 years related to various aspects of A&A. Professor Raj gave a detailed account of the timeline for A&A, the student satisfaction survey, which has been recently added. He advised that before finalizing the SSR, the institutions need to go through the standard operating procedure, that is the SOP. He threw light on the process of data validation and verification, as the NAC officials start with this process immediately within a week of submission of the SSR. The officials, they go through the uploaded data and ask for clarification from the institution if any discrepancy arises. So the institution should be ready with the supporting documents as per the caution given by Professor Raj. Concluding the session, Professor Raj stressed that the institutions must be well clear with the need of accreditation. They are getting themselves accredited just for the grade for CGPA, or the actual focus is on the quality of the education. He also remarked that a thorough study of the manual is mandatory before preparing and submitting the SSR. The session 3 of day 1 was taken by Dr. Krishan Kant, Principal PG College Balabgarh, District Faridabad, it's in Haryana, and his topic of deliberation was identification of best practices and their sustainability. Dr. Krishan Kant, in his discourse, focused on the various aspects such as identification, implementation, institutionalization, internalization, and dissemination for best practices. He discussed how these best practices need to be sustainable in higher education institutions. He emphasized the changing role of the teachers and the students as per the revised NEP, that is 2020. And as a result of pandemic, we are seeing there is a complete transition from our traditional teaching, that is face-to-face teaching, to online teaching. So he illustrated how our needs are transforming into challenges, and we need to make them our opportunities, in fact, by stressing on the current themes as per the global perspectives, that is calling for new teaching methods, value-based education with a human touch, the entry of the modern technology into the classrooms. I think we were all not in favor of mobiles for our kids, but now kids cannot do without mobiles because teaching is on mobiles. Stress on soft skills rather than just the domain knowledge. Earlier, we were just focusing on cognitive domains, but now more stress is on the inculcation of soft skills. We focus on innovation, entrepreneurship, value-based, market-oriented education. That's the need of the day. Forces of change in the universities, the higher education institutions need to be focused on evolution, revolution, and extinction. So the HEIs must be relevant to the changing national and global context and respond to the emerging challenges and pressing issues. So like gender equity, human values, professional ethics, environment consciousness, very important, inclusiveness. So he explained about the various aspects that are helpful for institutional excellence to promote best practices in different areas to improve institutional performance. So all the three sessions concluded fruitfully with appropriate response to the queries put forth by the participants. So these were the briefings of day 1. Now for day 2, we have our resource person, Dr. Sister Lydia Fernandes with us. A brief profile of Sister Lydia. Sister Lydia, born in Mangalore, school and college education at St. Agnes School and College, Bachelor's of Education at St. Anne's College of Education, Mangalore, Masters of Education at Bangalore University, and Masters in English from SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Sister has done her doctorate from Mysore University in Counseling Psychology. Sister is from the Apostolic Carmel congregation, and with this paradise, I personally share a special bond. And Sister has held positions of Assistant Provincial Superior of the Apostolic Carmel, Karnataka Province 2007 to 10, Secretary for Education, Apostolic Carmel Education Society. Revered Sister has served as a lecturer at St. Anne's College of Education in 1971, professor cum principal in 1989, and upgraded at St. Anne's College of Education as PG Center in Education, and Sister Lydia superannuated as principal in January 2003. Currently and in the past, Sister has been a member, Board of Directors, World Council for Curriculum and Instruction, based at California, Dean Faculty of Education, Mangalore University, President AIAER, Vice President CTE India, Member Syndicate Senate and the Academic Council, Mangalore University, Member Faculty of Education of all the 6 universities in Karnataka, Member Quality Assurance Committee for University Education, Mangalore University, Member Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, State Research Advisory Board, Government of Karnataka, NAC member, NCT member to inspect the various recognitions of the education colleges in South India. Besides these prestigious positions, Sister has also served as Assistant State Commissioner for Guides, Bharat Scouts and Guides, Karnataka. Sister Lydia has been awarded a gold medal in political science in graduation and has been conferred the Award of International Women of the Year 96-97 from International Biographical Center, Cambridge, United Kingdom. Sister has received the Best Citizen of India Award from Delhi-based organization, and has been listed in the Asia Pacific Who's and Who. Sister Lydia has been an international guest faculty, College of Teacher Education, Anhui University, China for almost a year, and has presented papers, participated as an invitee, as a resource person, and delivered keynote addresses at various national and international conferences, has interacted with the faculty of Department of Education at various international universities, and has given lectures to the faculty and students at some universities and the faculty of Apostolic Carmel schools in Kenya. Sister is the chairperson of D.Ed Curriculum, Government of Karnataka, and has authored many textbooks and is a member textbook committee for schools, Department of Education, Karnataka, has trained teacher educators as resource persons, undertaken major research projects for the Government of Karnataka, and has organized many conferences. She has conducted several programs on value education, skills of guidance and counseling, skills of personal effectiveness, empowerment for faculty members in schools and colleges in different parts of the country. On behalf of the management, Principal Dr. Pargat Singh Garcha, and faculty, I extend a warm welcome to Revered Sister Lydia and the education fraternity today here with us, and would request Sister to deliberate on the much needed session, that is incentives for holistic quality performance. not taking much time, handing over the platform to Sister for further proceedings.
Thank you very much.
Sister, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Correct. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Sister. Yes,
Yeah.
it's visible.
So, a good morning to all of you, especially the
Sister, you're
principal.
not audible.
Not audible. Not audible.
You're audible now. Sister, you audible?
Okay. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sister, you audible.
Okay. Good morning to all. In particular, I would like to thank Dr. Pragat Singh Garcha and Dr. Manu Chada. I think I would consider this an opportunity. I'm very happy to join you all for this webinar and share my insights on incentives for holistic quality performance at the higher education level. In fact, the title bears dynamic and stimulating concepts of pointers to higher education, and more specifically for teacher education in our country. Today's educators are expected to balance student learning and growth with professional responsibilities of purposefully designing learning material that meets all students' needs, while also challenging them to strengthen already existing skills, interests, and understandings, and simultaneously construct new skills and concerns and concepts leading to holistic development. Accordingly, I perceive that it entails commitment to holistic quality performance from the educator and a responsibility on their part to enhance their performance, availing of effective incentives as personal motivation. Holistic development of the learner, hence, is the base for holistic quality performance. I assume that holistic development is meant to create a learning environment to facilitate the overall development of students in the cognitive, physical, emotional, social, and ethical dimensions. In other words, holistic development essentially means the development of intellectual, mental, physical, emotional, and social abilities, competencies, and skills in a learner so that he or she is capable of facing the demands and challenges of everyday life. These abilities are numerous and are vitally important for success both in personal and professional learning of student life. In fact, as you see, I have put across all the competencies. In fact, the cognitive skills, creative skills, emotional skills, language skills, physical skills, spatial awareness, self-awareness, social skills, imagination, and logical skills and logical thinking. And I've added one more, value choices, because value inculcation and spiritual awareness of one's inner being is of primary importance. It would be apt here to look at the responsibilities of teacher education to build or inculcate the competencies and attitudes that are required of teacher training towards teacher capabilities that need to be built in him or her, as well as personalized by the teacher educator. I would call it the holistic training of teachers for quality performance, or in fact, for professionalism of a teacher, not professionalism as spelled out in some textbooks, but a holistic professionalism. Let me elaborate on the essential aspects of such teacher professionalism, which has to be the responsibility of higher education institutions, in particular of teacher education. The first aspect is working towards a personal knowledge base. Knowledge is information, not power. It is potential power and becomes power only when acted upon. Professor Araut makes a distinction between prescriptive knowledge and personal knowledge. While the former is the organized, codified knowledge that acquires the academic status and legitimacy, personal knowledge resides within the working professional, whereby professionals learn at work for enhancing placement learning. It is obtained over many years from observation, experimentation, social interactions, experience through personalization, and gets reflected in the person's performance and hence forms an important part of his or her competence. In a way, this becomes the knowledge base of the professional. Peter Singh, speaking about the art and practice of learning organization, clarifies that personal mastery is the discipline of continually clarifying and deepening our personal vision, of focusing our energies, of developing patience, and of seeing reality objectively. It goes beyond competence and skills, although it involves them. It goes beyond spiritual opening, although it involves spiritual growth. People with a high level of personal mastery live in a continual learning mode, a process and a lifelong discipline, and entails developing personal vision and commitment to truth. In fact, here I am thinking of a plate of biryani. Place it before you, it has potential energy. But put it in your mouth, chew it, bite it, chew it, and swallow it, and it'll have true energy because when it goes into the bloodstream. So is personal knowledge base. Only when prescriptive knowledge becomes personal knowledge base can we say that the person is truly competent in knowledge. The theoretical aspect of professional management of teacher education is clarified and glorified in all its dimensions. When it comes to practical reality in teacher education, there is a risk of its becoming totally outdated. In fact, I remember my conference in Louisiana, USA, way back in 2000. The conference was held in 3 five-star hotels on the beach of Louisiana, which later you have heard about Hurricane Katrina. Those 3 hotels were destroyed. And the number of participants was 3,000, all presenting papers in 40 groups in various rooms. And they were presenting what they had learned, what they have generated, knowledge generation. Whereas come to back to our own country, what is the motivation for this sort of a thing? While the really motivated and industrious teachers use their own resources to keep themselves abreast of new knowledge and to train themselves in the latest processes, methodologies, techniques of teaching, research, and attitudinal inputs, it is necessary to provide systematic and organized orientation programs for a large number of teachers who are outdated, or could I call them burnt out teachers? There are plenty of them, burnt out teachers, in order that a teacher continuously competes for knowledge and wisdom and not for grades alone. The second quality that comprises holistic quality performance is personal, emotional, social, spiritual integration. of the teacher, taking the educator to emotional competence. Daniel Goleman, who popularized emotional intelligence and emotional quotient, or EQ, has shown that people with high EQ are emotionally competent and have greater mental health, job performance, and leadership skills. An emotionally competent person has the following characteristics, the traits that are needed for personal effectiveness. They are self-awareness, consisting of emotional awareness, accurate self-assessment, self-confidence, knowledge of one's internal states, resources, and intuitions. It would simply imply the person is able to recognize, gauge, and acknowledge one's strengths and weaknesses, and feel that inner joy at the power he or she possesses, as well as recognize and acknowledge one's weaknesses and develops a readiness to rise above them and change oneself. We see around us people who deny their shortcomings and blame others or outside factors for their failures. In fact, I'm thinking of a particular teacher who told his students, "Dear students, I never get angry." One of the students felt, "Is it really true? I must ask my teacher." So he went after some time and asked the teacher, "Sir, do you really don't get angry?" And the teacher said, "Yes, boy, I don't get angry." After a while, he said, "No, I can't believe it." So after some time, again, he goes to the teacher, "Sir, do you really don't get angry?" He said, "No, my boy, I don't get angry." A third time, he did the same thing. And the teacher said, "No, my boy, I don't get angry." And the last time, before going, he said, "I will ask my teacher the last time." So he went to the teacher and asked, "Teacher, you don't get angry at all, at all?" And the teacher said, "No, I don't get angry." This is what happens to us about self-awareness. We are not aware of some of our weaknesses, we deny it. So it's an important thing is weakness is something to be made positive by making it an asset, because all of us have weaknesses, and when strengths and weaknesses are empowered, we become persons of great awareness, self-awareness, which our students need in life to develop that self-awareness. And such people are ready for the second competency, second skill, self-regulation. It implies self-control, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability, innovation, managing one's internal states, impulses, and resources. This requires a willingness to change and plan strategies to, in concrete terms, after picking out those weak areas in one's life and implement them with determination until the weakness changes into an asset for one's life. And the steps, definitely, we identify the weakness, we term it in practical, concrete, specific, measurable aspects, practice it by planning an action plan, and then we realize if we practice continuously without stop for 30 days or 40 days, that weakness, the strength of it becomes an asset, it becomes a habit. And the third essential quality or skill or component is motivation. As achievement drive, commitment, initiative, optimism, and emotional tendencies that guide or facilitate the reaching of goals. In today's world of cutthroat competition, a person who uses the competency of motivation to compete against one another is bound to develop a negative quality of depression when failures come their way. I have realized that a person who develops the motivation to compete against one's own self from my previous performance to the coming performance, or learns self-competition to perform better against one's previous performance, will gain greater accomplishment than motivated towards competitive motivation. I have seen myself rank students never, on the whole, don't make the best teachers or best professionals. It is those motivated about their own qualities, about their own self, they become qualitative and they become truly competent. In fact, for my PhD thesis, I worked on underachievers, that is, counseling to underachievers towards achievement. I came across a student who is to come out first in class, was an underachiever, and the teachers wouldn't believe it. So, in other words, when it is comparative motivation of first rank, it is never the best that you do. But only when you work on yourself, you go higher and higher. So, the motto should be do your best, be your best. And the fourth component is empathy, which is not merely sympathy, feeling with another, or even what we call getting into the shoes of another. It is more than understanding others and with interest working at developing the other about whom I am concerned with a service orientation along with awareness of others' feelings, needs, and concerns. I'm, I'm not aware whether you have heard the story, the incident of Mrs. Thompson, who went for the first time to teach in class 5. And she told the class, "Students, I love you all." And then she realized in the corner there was a dirty, filthy boy. And she realized she really didn't love him. In fact, she started humiliating him. But one fine day, she went across the earlier records of the boy. And it said something like this: Class 1, the boy, a brilliant boy, dressed well and happy. Class 2, the boy is still happy, still good, but there is some sort of shadows on his face. Class 3, the boy is very unhappy. The boy is distracted, and there is not much neatness. Class 4, she read, the child's mother died, and the father doesn't care for the boy, and the boy has completely downhearted, completely lost his interest, and is not even interested in himself. So it happened, the teacher took note of this. And then at Christmas time, when the children brought gifts to them, to the teacher, all of them brought beautiful gifts. And this boy, in a paper bag, brought something for the teacher. The teacher opened that, the first thing, and she found a bracelet with some stones gone and a perfume bottle half full, half empty. She took that, opened that, and sprayed that perfume on herself. And that evening, the boy said, "Mrs. Thompson, you smell like my mother." From that day onwards, even after that boy left that school and went to other schools, he would write to her, "Mrs. Thompson, I'm happy, I'm doing extremely well, but you are the best." He went to the medical college. There he wrote, "Mrs. Thompson, I am doing extremely well, but you are the best." Then one fine day, she gets a big cover. Mrs. Thompson opened it and she saw a wedding invitation and a letter. "Mrs. Thompson, I have completed my medical studies and I have met the girl of my life. I would like you to come for my wedding." And then he says, "Mrs. Thompson, I have done everything, but you are the best." And it was signed by Dr. Theodore Stoddard, a doctor. It's a real life story. And she went for the wedding, and there she was called, "Will you be my mother? Will you replace my mother?" And that is what happened to the teacher, who was totally empathetic and totally understood the feelings of the students. And that is what made the students become successful and succeed in their lives.
Sister, the screenshot. Some technical error it seems. Friends, kindly wait. I think there is some technical error. Probably sister has lost the connection. So kindly wait, please. There's no voice because sister has lost the connection. She'll be rejoining. Kindly wait. Friends, sister is joining in just 2 minutes. Kindly bear with us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sister, yes.
Okay,
You're
okay.
audible.
Yeah. So we have these capabilities that are built up.
So kindly share your screen, please. Your
Not
screen
shared.
is not sharing.
Shared is not.
Please share your screen.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sister, it's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have the capabilities, components of emotional intelligence that come real in the life of a person when this is done. The third aspect is professional ethics and obligations. When asked who is the most important person in one's profession, when I asked a group of teachers, for you as a professional, who is the most important person? They said, my students. I said, no, you are the most important person because you are responsible for yourself. You have to consider the most important person under professionalism and you have to take care of yourself. Obligation is a self-understood and accepted responsibility. Hence, it is ethical. The person takes on those personal responsibilities and holds himself or herself responsible when succeeds as well as fails. Growth in the qualities related to these obligations becomes one's own concern, and he personally works out an action plan towards it. Professional ethics and obligations are towards one's profession, the higher authorities, students, parents, and the society. But as I said, the first important person is you. This is an inner attitude. Once developed, many other professional components and capabilities take care of themselves. I would like to address the women here. It is being said many women are anemic. It is because they don't take care of themselves. They take first care of their children, their family, their husbands, and everyone, and they become the last person. Remember, dear, women teachers in particular, women professionals in particular, take care of yourself, your personal development, your professional development. That should be your first priority. And a person with professional ethics and obligations towards oneself is bound to be a person with positive attitude, positive self-esteem, and will be proactive in one's dealings and performance. We think we are positive, but very often we are reactive than proactive. And a reactive person is a negative person, a proactive person is a positive person. Attitude is the most important word that applies to every sphere of life, be it personal, professional, social, emotional, or spiritual. Can one be a successful teacher without good and positive attitude? The foundation of success, of effectiveness, regardless of one's field of life, is attitude. In other words, for a teacher educator, it is job satisfaction and a sense of belonging to the institution in which she or he is placed. In fact, in India, it has been automatic promotion in government service, but more and more we realize at present that it is not always the clever or just intelligent who get promoted, but some others. Who are they? Why is one teacher preferred to another? Why do students say it is a joy to be in the class of such and such a teacher, but not in the other teacher, though the latter is most intelligent? Analyze it. 85% of the reason for success and promotion is attitude, and only 15% for promotion is intelligence. Why do we focus on and educate only for 15% aspect, namely promote just intelligence that contributes towards a learner's achievement in terms of scores or marks in education? And marks are needed only for getting priority in admission into schools or universities. After that, it has no relevance to one's life. It may be because we ourselves have to go a long way in building our own attitudes by making it positive and pay greater attention to developing emotional competencies and emotional intelligence that develops overall competencies for life. And the fourth and the last aspect is modeling as effective mode of behavioral changes. The social learning theory proposed by Albert Bandura emphasizes the importance of observing, modeling, and imitating behavior, attitudes, emotional reactions of others. The social learning theory considers how both the environmental and cognitive factors interact to influence human learning and behavior. Behavior is learning from the environment through the process of observation learning. I strongly emphasize here that the student learns essentially through observation, whereby the educator becomes a powerful model for holistic development of learner. Hence, the importance of the holistic performance of the teacher as a model to learners, namely a teacher who exhibits a strong personal knowledge base, behavioral emotional competence, emotional intellect or intelligence, and has positive ethical and value orientation becomes an emphatic model for the students to develop those behaviors needed for a lifetime. Education in reality has to be futuristic, and it does not require the grades secured by the students to meet the futuristic demands and concerns, but the personal, intellectual, emotional, social, and value-based behavioral competencies acquired by them through education. The world of tomorrow will be totally different from the world of today, and no amount of prescriptive knowledge gained in the classroom and the scores or marks obtained through memorization will have relevance in the future challenges the learners would face. It is only the competencies gained as modeled by the teachers in areas of strengthening their personal knowledge base, their emotional competencies that will develop their emotional quotient, and the skills acquired for making sound value based choices alone will provide a space to them in the world scenario of tomorrow. This is not an easy challenge for educators, and it demands qualitative initiatives by higher education in the context of teacher education here that will serve as powerful incentives for the teachers towards holistic quality performance. I would like to enumerate some areas of incentives, in fact, 4 areas that will urge the educators to pursue holistic quality performance. The first incentive, I would say, is the path paved by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC. It is in this context we have to hail the NAC of India for the tone set and the demands made of higher education institution towards human resource development and capacity building of the stakeholders. The 5 core values, as outlined by the NAC, forming the foundation for assessment of institutions, and the 7 criteria with respective key indicators that represent the core functions and activities of a higher educational institution to provide ample scope and urge for teacher education to aspire towards holistic quality performance. In the process of working towards the preparation of the SSR, it is also a great incentive to the institutions and individual faculty towards quality performance. As spelled out by NAC, the core values, namely contributing to national development through human resource development and capacity building of individuals to cater to the needs of the economy, society, and the country, as well as to serve the cause of justice, will enhance the competencies related to personhood. Second core value, fostering global competencies among students to meet the demand for internationally acceptable standards in higher education, will motivate them to broader perspectives on achievement and quality in performance. The third core value, inculcating a value system among students commensurate with social, cultural, economic, and environmental realities at the local, national, and universal level is bound to strengthen the inner core dimension of a student, the teachers, and the student's personality. Fourth, promoting the use of technology to make visible its impact on academic development as well as administration, to use the state of the art educational technologies and the use of the ICT optimally will urge them to be relevant and futuristic in outlook, and essentially pursuing the final core value, quest of excellence, by demonstrating a drive to develop themselves into centers of excellence, will motivate all the stakeholders to aspire towards doing the best and being the best in their undertakings. The 7 criteria for assessment provide ample incentives to the faculty to continually experiment with the teaching learning processes under the curricular aspects, to challenge the teachers to ever grow in their capabilities and professional enhancement, and thus enhance their competencies and skill development of students under the criterion teaching, learning, and evaluation, to avail of opportunities to experiment and contribute to knowledge development and sharing through outreach under research and outreach activities, for the institutions to build up the facilities in all its dimensions for the faculty and students to grow and expand their horizons under the criterion infrastructure and learning resources, to focus on students as the core and center of all academic transactions under the criterion student support and progression, for institutional leadership to be dynamic in providing goal orientation and a sense of belongingness in the faculty under the criterion governance, leadership, and management, and lastly, under the final criterion, to be pathbreakers and a shining star in the horizon of education, in becoming models for all stakeholders and to the society to the projection of their institutional values and best practices. The NAC has included the incentive for the institutions of experimenting on best practices under each of the criteria to enhance the quality of performance at higher education. In fact, the best practices tried out by colleges have been shared through publications and seminars by the NAC. This is a great opportunity for the faculty to take initiative and exhibit leadership in this direction, in particular in the first 5 criteria, namely curricular aspects, teaching, learning and evaluation, research and outreach activities, and student support and progression. The session yesterday of your webinar have dealt on this aspect of best practices in detail, and you would have gained much more from the input. The next incentive, I would call it incentives from administration and management. The role of an administrator is to make your teachers' lives easier so that they can teach and your students can learn. The teachers who grow in a sense of belongingness and have a high level of job satisfaction are the ones who will remain ever motivated and contribute at the highest level, the highest level. Several practices by the administration and the management would include in making oneself available to interact and receive feedback from them, exhibit that they are valued, the teachers are valued through performance-based rewards and awards, small gifts periodically, public recognition, appreciation, praise and gratitude in creative and joyful ways, encouraging them and providing financial support for professional development through conferences, workshops, and travels outside the institution, giving the professionals, the teachers, a voice by creating opportunities to be involved in making important decisions, to be representatives during board meetings, inviting their opinions, suggestions, and ideas, and taking them seriously, cultivating a listening ear to their concerns and needs, empowering each teacher's strengths by recognizing them, helping and encouraging them to discover and blossom in their talents and capabilities, recognizing key stress times of the teacher. For example, the time of examination, major activities, some problems at home. These are the times when they are stressed and providing relief and comfort by the management. Lastly, encouraging collaboration by creating professional learning communities within the institution and motivating the teachers to work together and in a team spirit, it can significantly impact their motivation. Keeping the teachers motivated can be a challenge, but it is an essential part of the students' overall, for the students' overall success, and administration needs to keep this in mind. Great teachers are those that are motivated to excel and take pride in their students' success, both inside and outside the classroom. Administration needs to take time to experiment with some of these tips to find what best works in their own institution. And the third one, synergy as the habit of creative cooperation among the faculty. One of the problems we face in our institutions is competition and enmity among the faculty, one trying to surpass and outdo the other, while the holistic growth of learners demands that we pool our energies or combining the strength of people to positive teamwork to achieve the goals that no one could have done alone and to be more effective in our vision and mission of education. Stephen Covey, the author of Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, terms the sixth habit as synergize, and says, when you are effective, you seek the third alternative, not my way or your way, but our way. For better ideas and solutions, you need to come up together. By valuing differences in other people, using differences as an asset for institutional growth, this is necessary, and synergy can take place in this context. Synergy means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. If the sum 1 plus 1 is 3 seems familiar, and you agree with me, this is what it is all about. Hence, handling issues, projects, problems together will result in performance of high caliber and of high value. Covey draws a parallel to nature where synergy is everywhere. If you plant two plants close together, the roots commingle and improve the quality of the soil so that both plants will grow better than if they were separated. He adds that unless we value the differences in our perceptions, unless we value each other and give credence to the possibility that we are both right, that life is not always a dichotomous either or, that there are always, almost always, a third alternative, we will never be able to transcend the limitations of our conditioning of the past. Listening to and giving importance to the opinion of others and working with challenging people can bring about creative change in the functioning and performance of the faculty. As an educator convinced of this reality, I would suggest that the educators working together by recognizing the power, strength, and capacity of each of the colleagues can be a great incentive to perform the optimal level on all counts. It would be a great learning opportunity for the students to experience the value of team spirit modeled by their mentors and teachers, since this social and emotional competency gained by their teachers through teamwork will go a long way as an example to the students for their future world of work that treasures teamwork, collaboration for success in their ventures in their life. And the final incentive, the fourth one I have listed, is intrinsic motivation as the key to holistic performance. Perhaps no single phenomenon reflects the positive potential of human nature as much as intrinsic motivation, the inherent tendency to seek out novelty and challenges, to extend and exercise one's capacities, to explore and to learn, says Ryan and Dechi. Competence pertains to how much our action aligns with our capabilities, such as our knowledge and skills. We need to feel capable of achieving the desired outcome, and only intrinsic motivation can do this. Growth in the qualities related to these obligations become one's own concern and personally will help to work out an action plan towards this. This is an inner attitude, a self-motivated or a person with inward urge who can feel this and truly go ahead. Without this, growth or performance cannot take place. This an inner attitude once developed by many professional with many other professional components and capabilities take care of themselves, take care of learning by themselves, achievement, and high capacity. However, the primary obligation of a professional before his or her obligation to the students is always towards one's growth and one's profession. That inner felt need and inner urge should reach the professional to the heights. Obligation towards one's growth is a self understood and accepted responsibility. Hence, it is ethical that the educator takes on those personal responsibilities and holds himself or herself responsible when one succeeds or fails. These include binding oneself to the norms and principles that exist in a system for effective functioning and persist in this behavior. As it is self binding, when taken earnestly and seriously, it makes their shoulders broader to take on the responsibilities with grace and generosity and strengthens their respect for their profession. As a teacher practitioner grows into teaching, the techniques one has learned do not disappear, but face to face with students, only one resource is at his or her immediate command: one's identity, one's selfhood, and sense of this I who teaches, without which I have no sense of you who learns. Such a teacher is someone who teaches with a heart. The heart of education is this connectedness, the connectedness between the teacher, the learner, and the subject content. And this alone personalizes the teacher's subject content. Good teaching cannot be reduced to a technique. Good teaching comes from the identity and integrity of the teacher. In every class they teach, their ability to connect with students, to connect them with the subject, depends less on the methods that they use than on the degree to which they know and trust their selfhood, and their willingness to make it available and vulnerable in the service of learning. While incentives from all other sources are important, incentives from the management, intensive incentives given by the NAC, provided by the NAC, incentives that are everywhere, only when they are made personal. Until then, they remain external. Incentives are provided to the teachers in so many ways, but unless the teacher is willing to take them and make them their own, learning cannot take place. Performance of high caliber cannot take place. In fact, I say once again, our teachers can remain permanent because in our culture, our country does not demand continuous development except for a few courses. Otherwise, a training or relicense, as you find in other countries, is absent in our country. So, in the context of education, though there are certain challenges, in very many occasions, the teacher remained a burnt out case. The teacher remained dead. So, but I know those who are listening to me are different, are dynamic teachers, and I wish all of you well. So, what is required is to create in a teacher a desire and an attitude towards pursuit of excellence, excellence in all fields, all aspects of one's life. This pursuit of excellence would also demand certain qualities in the teacher, that when a responsibility is taken, it is done immediately. There is very much of procrastination in many cases, whereas a teacher, highly motivated, with intrinsic motivation is the one who will continuously learn, continuously be motivated, continuously seek advice, continuously seek out ways of developing oneself. And today we have an added tremendous source through online, through the internet. There are tremendous ways of building up oneself, upgrading oneself. Otherwise, I believe that once a person completes education or teaching or professorship, once the person leaves the portals of that institution, there is always a possibility of what next? I have nothing to do. What else can I do? So it is not only the career of professionalism in the institution that is important for a person, but to build oneself, not only for the one's career, not only for the other stakeholders, but for oneself for life. Let this be the dream of every educator, every teacher. However, only a professional who is motivated from within, urged to perform one's best in all aspects of his or her responsibility towards holistic education of the learners, can use all other external incentives to the best advantage of what eventually matters is we teach who we are. And with this, I think I have still given you more time for questions by ending mine in 50 minutes. So I say thank you, and I'm open to answer your queries. Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much for your discourse. Now it's open to the house for questions. Friends, you have any queries, kindly unmute yourself. Yes, friends, any queries? Two participants have raised their hands. Yes, Risleen, you may unmute yourself. Just 1 minute, we'll just enable you. Yes, Jasleen, you may unmute yourself. Jasleen Oil.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Manu, ma'am. Thank you, Sister Lydia, for such cogent and persuasive deliberations on the topic. Thank you very much. My question to you, Sister Lydia, is that the teacher educators of today, the faculty, they are teaching young students of the so-called Generation Z, that are exposed to a lot of online resources. They have access to open online resources. Students who want to exercise a lot of, to a very large extent, learner autonomy, and perhaps to certain degree also feel that they can do things on their own because of the access that they have to resources online. Given such situation and circumstances, and also the fact that we have shifted to the online teaching learning mode, what would your advice be to teachers who are dealing or who have to teach such kind of students?
Thank you, Jaslyn. I think a very pertinent question. And today, there are very many people who say, why do we need teachers when all the resources are available to the learners? There are two aspects I want to highlight. The first, as I already spoke about, knowledge, prescriptive knowledge, and personal knowledge. There are sources available to the students on prescriptive knowledge, but the choice of the knowledge and use that knowledge in practical ways, in more personal ways, use that knowledge for personal, whole person benefit, holistic person benefit, not only for intellectual development. There is the role of a teacher or the teacher educator. There is a guidance that is needed. And this knowledge has to be made holistic. And to make it holistic by application, research, application to self, application to humanity, and then the values integrated into that knowledge, in using that knowledge, achieving that knowledge. Here is the role of a teacher. And the second aspect is, I think I put across 4 dimensions of holistic education. The first one alone was knowledge. And the second I spoke about, and that is a highly valuable, is integration of the potentials, the various dimensions of personhood, that integration. It is being said, I have not learned any research, but I've heard even 50% of our young people are depressed. And our young people very easily get discouraged, discontented, and there are tendencies of giving up one's self or giving up one's life. Knowledge can be in abundance, but unless that knowledge becomes a value to them, unless a person develops along with knowledge the competencies of self-awareness, knowing oneself, one's strengths, and how to use one's weaknesses, how to accept failures and live with failures and build up on failures, the competitive dimension of motivation can make the student lose one's life. And also, at the same time, I have seen this in teacher education when, towards my end of my career, earlier the headmasters or headmistresses of our schools did not say this. But towards the end, I noticed that the present generation, the Z generation, is very vulnerable and they want achievement. One of the principals told me, sister, train your students while teaching to be compassionate. What happens in a classroom is what I've observed too. The teacher is highly talented, the student teacher, highly talented, able to answer, but equally impatient. She's interested or he's interested in his achievement, not the compassionate look at the students, not the gaze on all the students. Your gaze is on all the students, you become compassionate. You see in a classroom how many are with you, how many are dreaming, how many have problems in their eyes. And this is a capacity for compassion, understanding, and taking what I call empathy and helping the students to develop. Otherwise, you cannot be the type of teacher you're called to be. And that is the reason why these competencies are of utmost importance. And these competencies alone have to be modeled by the teacher, not speak about them. Very often we hear teachers telling the students, you don't give your assignments in time. But the same teacher is never in time to school or college. There is a dichotomy. In fact, I came across an incident where a mother told the daughter, my daughter, you're wearing the latest pants and latest dresses. You must give your attention to more academics and studies. And daughter turned towards the mother and said, Mama, but you are wearing the latest saris and you're telling me. The same daughter will not tell the teacher, teacher, you are telling me one thing, you're behaving differently. And that's why it's of utmost importance that the teacher not only develops the integrating personality competencies, but model them, not tell about them. And this is the essential and very important role of a teacher. And here is the role of a teacher, because only a youngster today who learns these capabilities will be successful in life. I've come across rank students who are not successful, but I've seen students who have developed these abilities are highly successful. I think we have the example of Sundar Pichai. Remember when he was made the Google head, everyone Googled to see who he was, and they couldn't find him. His own college had to go to the files to find out who he was. He was not the best, the brilliant student, but he was a student who had capacities of living with one another, of teamwork with one another, and become highly successful. To be highly successful, it is not only the knowledge available in the internet and what they can do with the internet is essential, but the qualities, the competencies of personhood. I hope I have answered you.
Thank you, sister. Very well said. Thank you.
Next, Sister Chrissia Laura. You raise your hand, Sister. You may please unmute yourself.
Good morning, Sister Lydia, and this is Sister Laura. Very well presented. I'm also from the stream of Education for Peace, and the holistic perspective that you have spoken, so appealing to the flock that we are all audience today. And thank you for that wonderful presentation. I have my own query with regard to the expression that you have made. You express that 85% of the population is of positive attitudes, and against that, 15% of the individual. I have some disturbance coming in. 15% of the people are of intelligent individual. But that 85% consists also of those who would like to climb the ladder of professionally somewhere placed. And we know in Indian scenario, climbing that ladder or becoming a teacher educator also today is of demanding that aspect of corruption. I just bring because of this, we have lost compassionate teachers. We have lost resourceful teachers because this scenario, because I've come across this, how discouraging it is to those potential individuals to give their best to the masses in our present scenario. So I just want you, sister, to enlighten on this area where we are needing it.
Thank you, Sister Laura. I think I need to clarify that point. My point, the point that I made was 85% of those who climb the higher ladder are the ones who have taken care of all the aspects of one's personhood, including motivation, which is achievement, which includes also bringing up the intellectual capacity to the higher level. I think I spoke about a student, my underachiever, who was 80% and first rank holder, but still an underachiever. Because when the person gave attention to personal motivation, personally motivated, she could climb higher still. So academics or intellectual aspect is a part of the holistic. So it is just the intellectual part or the intelligence part, most of the time our education gives attention to. That is securing 90%, 100% marks in examination, and other aspects are neglected. But When it comes to reality in life, those who climb the ladder are the ones who have taken care of all the dimensions, that is, personal, social, intellectual, including intellectual, spiritual, ethical, psychological. They are holistic persons. And education of this type should give attention, the teacher should give attention to the holistic aspect, not only to the intellectual aspect, as very often our education shows us. We speak about the 100% results, number of distinctions, but we may forget, I'm not saying we forget, we may forget that we have to give holistic education, not just intellectual education. And intellectual education gives only to 15% of our personhood, not 15% of population of the personhood, whereas 85% of people who climb higher are actually the ones who have taken care of 100% of personhood, and 15% get promotions only because of the intellectual. I think it is that distinction I need to clarify if you have not got it. I don't know whether you have got it.
No, just to enlighten us, what would be the aspect of corruption in
The
yes.
aspect of corruption comes in when the value-based aspect is neglected. And when we speak about values again, we speak in terms of telling about values. But values in reality is to make a choice. When there are two alternatives, maybe there is an alternative to be honest, to be alternative to be dishonest. Our students of the future have to be trained or to be developed in them the ability to make choices in life, to choose the better of the two, the difficult of the two. In fact, I came across an article in the context of Deepavali. A journalist asked a number of people, see, this is Deepavali is winning, what is that? The victory of good over evil. We are celebrating it. But how many would you believe would like to have this sort of a thing, that you would choose victory of making difficult choices as against the easy choices which will give you plenty of money? Some of them were very adamant, and they said, what is the point in my choosing to be honest when I may not be able to educate my child to be the highest because I won't have money? But one of them said, even if corrupt people make money, their hearts will be corrupt and their hearts will lack peace. Someday they will realize they have made the wrong choice. So it is a hard choice for the better that we have to live. We have to exhibit that we are not corruption of money, but corruption of choosing the wrong as against the right. Choosing our comfort as against the sacrificing for our students. I think these are the values educators have to exhibit or model. When that doesn't happen, I think we are encouraging corruption, and that is a very difficult choice or very difficult part of the commitment or professionalism of educators, of teachers. It's very difficult, but you and I have to choose it. And only then our students will live that in the future. Not easy, but it is so.
Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you, Sister Lydia, and thank you, Sister Laura, for your wonderful question. And Sister Lydia answered it very beautifully. Any other queries, participants? Any other queries? So Probably, I don't think so, sister. There are any more queries. Actually, if we go through the chat box, the presentation, the session, like there are comments like highly enlightening session, very nice session, very beautiful presentation. So I think the presentation and your deliberation was so lucid. It was so clear that probably everybody has understood each and every aspect that you've been telling us. So very rightly quoted that holistic education demands holistic teacher performance. There is the need for teachers to identify and grow in professional competencies, because teachers basically are the nation builders. And Sister, you very beautifully highlighted the holistic professional competencies, the incentives for holistic quality performance. Very truly said, Sister, that the Z generation is highly vulnerable, and we need to develop the imperative values among the imperative competencies, imperative values among the present generation. As teachers as well as parents, wonderfully quoted that we need to practice what we preach, because they are because of the resources, the knowledge is so much available to the students, to our kids and to the students, that we need to practice what we preach and exhibit desirable professional as well as personal competencies. Thank you so much, sister, for this wonderful discourse. It was really a pleasure listening to you on behalf of the management, principal, and the faculty, and even on behalf of the participants. Because seeing everything, seeing the chat box, I would like to even thank you on behalf of the participants for sparing out time from your very busy schedule. And thank you, sister. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for sharing your valuable inputs with us. Thank you, sister.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much,
Thank you, sister.
Manu.